two-time psych ward attendee to successful realtor and life coach. We're talking about living brighter. So we've been going over the different reasons why I even missed I was in an abusive relationship for 22 years. And one of them was buffering. I was the queen of buffering. Buffering is when you use whatever activity of your choice to basically keep you from thinking about, feeling, processing, or dealing with circumstances, situation, thoughts, and feelings. And I was fabulous at it. So there's so many, I'll talk about my form of buffering first. So I had 4 kids at the time. And so my form of buffering was beautifully godly. It was busyness. So I was out serving others, doing this, taking care of my kids, doing that. But the truth is, I was not dealing with my challenges and the situation that I knew was hurting me. And so I would be very busy. So this can look like a very godly and productive situation. But at the root of it was fear of like not really knowing what to do, or fear of not knowing what steps to take. Just a lot of fear because I didn't know what to do. And a lot of it was like, I feel stuck. And so I'm just going to ignore. So buffering was a way for me to ignore the situation that I was in and not deal with it and to avoid. And so there's lots, let's talk about forms of buffering. There's a ton of them. So I think a lot of us are aware of some common buffering, which is addictions. A lot of times addictions, and not all the time, but they come from not wanting to deal with challenging feelings and thoughts and circumstances. And so alcohol, drugs, whatever form of addiction, there's lots of different addictions. It gives the dopamine high. And that can be a wonderful way not to avoid those negative feelings that need to be processed. So I had a friend of mine, and she overdrank. And when she got out of overdrinking, she's like, gosh, now I have to really deal with my life. And that's really hard. And so thankfully she's very brave and working through that, and it's a process. So that was an example of that. But I know people that go in buffer with all sorts of things. So there could be Netflix, there could be romance novels, there could be exercising, there could be work. Work is seems to be a very justified way of buffering. And that's actually what my husband now, Michael, he used in his domestic abuse situation. Is he just worked because it felt good. And you got something productive, and it was a way for him to not deal with his negative thoughts, feelings, and circumstances that he felt trapped in as well. So there's lots of potentials for buffering. So why do we buffer? I think for the biggest thing, a lot of us have not learned how to deal and process through negative emotions and thoughts and circumstances in a way that's actually healing and beneficial and constructive. And so basically we're letting our unconscious and our subconscious kind of run the show, and we're just numbing and buffering so we're not having to deal with it. Would you like to start your Live Brighter journey with some free printable affirmation? There's nothing like reminding yourself of God's truth about you. Click the link below. So that's why I did a lot of work through that by using my Unravel Notebook. And the Unravel Notebook, I had a part of it that I called it the Barf Notebook. And I just barfed out all my thoughts and feelings and just barfed them out on paper. Obviously, don't worry about spelling. I'm not the best speller as it is. So I didn't worry about spelling or anything, just barfed it out. And then I sorted it out. And as I sorted it out, I was thinking about, okay, so what's true? And then what is important to me? What boundaries have been crossed? What do I need to rethink? What resources do I need to get in order to strengthen myself? What areas am I lacking where I need some support? And then plan it out. And I just planned, okay, I obviously, in the last episode, I talked about how I went from an abusive marriage to an abusive relationship. And so the plan it out was like, okay, I need to go to my counselor and tell him how low my bar is so I can get some resources and start rethinking how I feel and think about relationships. So that's an example. But barf it out, sort it out. And as I sorted it out, I would be also like reframing it, rewriting it, kind of reworking with it, but really trying to get to the truth of the matter and also what mattered to me. And I had very much lost touch of that. So that was a, important part of it. And then just learning to sit with a negative emotion. So this is an exercise for sitting with a negative emotion or processing a negative emotion. So first of all, just take a deep breath in and then breathe out for about 6 seconds. 5, 6. One more time. Breathe in and breathe out. 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Now I want you to just close your eyes if you can and think about a negative emotion that you're dealing with. Now, rather than fighting it, pushing it away, trying to ignore it, I want you to just feel it. And then I'd like you to think about, like, where is it somewhere in your body where you can just imagine where it's sitting? Like sometimes I would feel it in like my shoulder or all sorts of places. Now, just kind of look at that emotion and describe it. Give it some details. Like, how does that feeling really feel? Is it like a dark, a light, a hard, a soft? What color is it? And just kind of keep sitting with that negative emotion. And as you just look at it, you're kind of stepping back from it a little bit and just like, okay, that negative emotion, for example, is fear. And that, and as you're describing it, you're, giving some texture and some understanding to it and diving deeper. But as you continue to do that, just keep doing it. Now I want you we're going to go back to kind of some of the first questions is how does that emotion feel and where do you feel it? What does it look like now? And then it's the same process. What color, what shape, how does it feel? Describe it, that sort of thing. Okay, now I want you to stop. So the interesting thing about that exercise is as you notice that emotion shifted as you actually felt it and looked at it and kind of described it, then it shifted. And that's what emotions do. They're like energy in our body, and just allowing yourself to process it and really feel it it actually starts to dissolve a little bit. And then it makes it a little bit easier to think through it and sort through it too. So that's just a little exercise about feeling an emotion, and it can be super helpful. So I want you to just reflect on your life. Are there things that you're doing that you are doing to not deal with certain issues, thoughts, feelings, and issues? That is buffering. And, there's some buffering that, there's some self-soothing that, we probably need to do to a degree. But a lot of times those buffering is just used to ignore and not deal with issues and things. So I want you to just think about if there's something in your life that you need to deal with. And then just start taking it through there's lots of different ways to deal with challenging situations. I found that having my Barf notebook and my Unravel journal, I was able to do a lot of therapy on my own. Not that I discourage going to a therapist, because that's super wonderful. At the time, it was more costly than I could handle at the time. And so I did go see a therapist, but then I did this on the side to help me out. So really be intentional. If you want change, you have to be intentional. And it starts with not buffering and starting to sit and process what you're going through. I believe in you. You have all the tools, and you can gain all the tools you need to go through a situation. Let your light shine.